The moment she said it, "Take me to my brother," I felt like the floor disappeared, because suddenly, this was no longer about letters, no longer about the past. This was about the present, about real people, about my son, about her, about a truth that could destroy the last fragile pieces of my family. I stared at her. My voice barely came out. "You want to meet him?" She nodded, tears still on her cheeks, her jaw trembling. "Yes," she whispered. "I don't want to die without knowing what my own blood looks like." That sentence hit me so hard. I had to hold the edge of the table, because I understood. I understood too well, because I had spent 20 years talking to a photograph, because I didn't want to die without being heard. And now, she didn't want to die without being seen. Margaret whispered, "Maybe we should slow down." The girl snapped her head toward her, her eyes sharp. "No." Her voice broke. "I've been slowing down my whole life. I've been waiting. I've been swallowing. I've been pretending." She wiped her face and whispered, "I don't want to wait anymore." The grandmother started crying again. Softly, she whispered, "She's right. She's right." And the girl looked at her grandmother, and her face softened for a second, because that old woman had been the only one who stayed, the only one who didn't disappear. I sat back in my chair slowly, my heart pounding. I whispered, "My son doesn't know." The girl nodded. "I know." I swallowed. He's grown now. He has his own life." The girl's eyes filled again. She whispered, "So did my father." That sentence was quiet, but it was sharp enough to cut, and I couldn't argue. Margaret leaned closer to me. She whispered, "Do you want to do this?" I stared at the floor, because what I wanted didn't matter anymore. Not if I wanted to be honest. Not if I wanted to be human. Not if I wanted to be better than my husband. So I whispered, "Yes." My voice broke. "Yes, I do." The girl's breath trembled, and she asked softly, "Will you come with me?" I looked at her. I nodded. "Yes." And the moment I said yes, my tears came again, because I realized something. If I take her to my son, I might lose him. He might hate me. He might blame me. He might say, "You lied to me my whole life." And he would be right. Even though I didn't know, even though I was also lied to, he would still feel betrayed. Because truth doesn't care about intentions. Truth only cares about impact. The girl sat down again. She looked exhausted, like she had lived a whole lifetime in one afternoon. She whispered, "When?" I swallowed. I didn't want to answer, but I knew if I didn't do it soon, I would become a coward, and I had lived with a coward. I didn't want to die as one, so I whispered, Tomorrow. The girl's eyes widened. Tomorrow? I nodded. Yes. Her lips trembled. And she whispered, "Okay." And then she started crying again. Quietly. Like her body couldn't stop. Like her heart was leaking. The grandmother stood up. She walked into the kitchen. She came back with tissues. She handed them to the girl. Then she handed some to me. And when she handed them to me, her hand touched mine. And she whispered, "Thank you." That word made my throat close, because I didn't deserve thanks. I deserved questions. I deserved anger. But she gave me thanks. And I cried harder, because kindness is sometimes the most painful thing. When we finally stood up to leave, the girl followed me to the door. Her voice was quiet. She whispered, "Can I ask you something?" I nodded. Yes. She looked down, then up, her eyes wet, and she whispered, "Was he happy with you?" My heart clenched. I didn't know what to say, because yes, he laughed with me. He held my hand. He kissed my forehead. He called me my love. He was happy. And that made me feel guilty. Because how can someone be happy while someone else is starving for them? How can a man build a warm home while leaving another child in the cold? I swallowed hard, and I whispered, "He looked happy." The girl nodded slowly, and tears rolled down again. She whispered, I wish I was part of that happiness." And I whispered, "I'm sorry." My voice broke. "I'm so sorry." And the girl whispered back, "I know." And then she said something that broke me. She whispered, "You're the only person who came back." On the drive home, Margaret didn't speak. She kept her eyes on the road, but I could see her wiping her cheek once. Then again, she whispered, "This is going to change everything." I stared out the window. The world looked normal. Cars passing, people walking, a child holding a balloon. And yet, my whole life was cracking. I whispered, "I know." When I reached my house, I stood in the doorway for a long time, because it felt different now. This house was built on love, but also built on a secret. I walked in. The silence greeted me. But tonight, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. Full of things I didn't know. Full of things I ignored. Full of things I never asked. That night, I sat by his photograph again, my hands shaking, my eyes already burning, and I whispered, "You left me a mess." My voice cracked. "You left me a mess to clean." I laughed once, but it was not a real laugh. It was a sob. I whispered, "Do you know what she asked me today?" She asked me if you were happy with me. My tears fell. I wanted to say yes, but saying yes felt like stabbing her. I wiped my cheeks. I whispered, I hate you. And then my voice broke completely, and I whispered, but I miss you. And I cried. I cried so hard. I had to press my forehead against the table. I cried until my body hurt, until my chest ached, until my throat burned. Because love doesn't leave quietly. It leaves pieces inside you. When I finally calmed down, I whispered, tomorrow, tomorrow I will tell our son. My heart pounded. I whispered, I will tell him. He has a sister. The words felt unreal, like I was saying someone else's life. And then I whispered, if he hates me, I will accept it. Because if I don't, then I'm still protecting you. And I'm tired of protecting you. I sat there, staring at his photograph, and for the first time, I didn't talk to him like a wife. I talked to him like a judge, like a mother, like a woman who had carried his name, and now had to carry his consequences. I whispered, she deserves her brother, and he deserves the truth. And you deserve to be remembered, not as a perfect man, but as a human one. I stood up slowly. I turned off the lamp, and I lay in bed. But sleep didn't come, because tomorrow was a cliff, and I was about to jump. In the morning, I called my son. My fingers shook on the phone. It rang. Once, twice. Then he answered. Hi, Mum. His voice sounded normal, warm, busy, like nothing in the world was breaking. And I almost stopped, because hearing his voice made me want to protect him. But then I remembered her face, her tears, her whisper, you're the only person who came back. So I swallowed hard, and I said, son, I need you to come home today. There was a pause. What's wrong? My throat tightened, and I whispered, there's something you need to know. My son's voice changed. He sounded worried now. He asked, is it about Dad? And I stared at the wall, my heart pounding, because I realized I was about to say the words that would change his life forever. When my son asked, is it about Dad? My throat tightened so hard, I couldn't speak for a moment. Because yes, it was about his father, but it was also about him, about me, about a sister he never knew existed, about a truth that had been sitting in our house, like a silent ghost, for decades. I swallowed, and I whispered, yes, it's about your father. There was a pause. Then my son said, Mum, you're scaring me. And the moment he said that, my eyes filled, because I didn't want to scare him. He was my child, my only child, the boy I raised, the boy I protected, the boy who used to run into my arms when he scraped his knee. And now, I was about to scrape his whole heart. I forced my voice to stay steady. I need you to come home today. He hesitated. Mum, I'm working. I closed my eyes. And I whispered, please. And something in my voice must have broken, because he went quiet. Then he said softly, okay, I'll come after work. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. I sat down at the kitchen table, and I stared at the empty chair across from me. The chair my husband used to sit in. The chair that had been empty for 20 years. And for the first time, I didn't see an empty chair. I saw a witness. A witness to all the meals, all the laughter, all the arguments, all the lies. Margaret arrived soon after. She knocked softly. When I opened the door, she looked at my face and immediately knew. She whispered, "You called him." I nodded. My voice broke. Yes. Margaret stepped inside. She didn't say anything. She just wrapped her arms around me. And I cried. I cried into her shoulder like a child. Because I was so old. And still life could make me feel small. Margaret held my face gently. Do you want me to stay? I nodded. Yes. And then I whispered, I don't know if I can do this. Margaret looked at me firmly. You can. You're the strongest woman I know. I shook my head. No. My voice cracked. I'm just the woman who stayed. Margaret didn't argue. She whispered, staying is strength. And that made me cry again. Hours passed slowly, like time was dragging its feet. I cleaned the house, not because it needed cleaning, but because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. I washed cups that were already clean. I folded towels that were already folded. I kept glancing at the clock. And every time I did, my stomach twisted. Around noon, the girl called. Her voice was quiet. Are you okay? I hesitated. Then I whispered, no. And she didn't say it's fine. She didn't say calm down. She just whispered, me neither. That simple honesty made my eyes burn again. I whispered, his coming. The girl inhaled sharply. His coming today. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Yes. There was silence. Then she whispered, I'm scared. My throat tightened. I know. She whispered, what if he hates me? I closed my eyes. And I said softly, if he hates you, then he is not the man I raised. My voice broke. And if he hates you, then I will still stand beside you. The girl went quiet. Then she whispered, thank you. And I realized no one had ever stood beside her before. Not like that. Later, I called her grandmother too. I told her the plan. The old woman's voice shook. May God give you strength. I whispered, Amen. When evening came, I set the table. 3 cups. Then I stopped. I stared. 3 cups. Me. My son. His sister. 3 cups. My heart pounded. I removed 1 cup. Then added it back. Removed it again. Then added it back. Margaret watched me. She didn't stop me. She just sat quietly. Because she understood. This wasn't about cups. This was about reality. Reality was finally walking into my home. At 6:12, I heard the front door. The sound of keys. The sound of my son's footsteps. My heart jumped. I stood up so quickly. My knees protested. But I didn't care. He walked into the kitchen. He looked taller than I remembered. Older. His hair had a few strands of grey now. And suddenly, I saw my husband in his face. Not just the eyes, but the shape of his mouth. The way he looked when he was worried. My son said, "Mum, what's going on?" I opened my mouth. And nothing came. My throat was locked. My eyes filled instantly. And my son's face changed. He rushed toward me. "Mum." He held my arms. "Are you sick?" I shook my head quickly. "No, no." He looked terrified. "Then what is it?" Margaret stood behind me. She whispered, "Sit down." I Saturday. My son sat too. And for a moment, we were just 3 people in a kitchen. 3 people who didn't know. They were about to become 4. I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking. My son reached across the table. He held my hand. "Please tell me." And the kindness in his voice made my heart crack. Because how do you break someone? Who is holding you gently? I whispered. "I found something." My son frowned. "What?" I swallowed. "A box." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "A box?" I nodded. "Yes." He looked confused. Margaret stared down. I continued. "It was in your father's drawer." My son's face tightened. He leaned back slightly. "Mum, why are we doing this now?" That sentence hurt. Not because he was wrong, but because I had asked myself the same thing. Why now? Why after 20 years? Why open wounds that were finally quiet? But then, I remembered the girl's tears. Her voice. I waited for anything. So I whispered. Because I didn't know. And now I do. My son looked away. His jaw clenched. He said softly, "I don't want to hear anything bad about Dad." My eyes filled. Because I understood. When you lose a parent, you protect their memory. Even if they were imperfect, you cling to the best version. Because it hurts less. My son whispered. "He was a good man." I nodded slowly. "Yes, he was." Then my voice cracked. "But he wasn't only that." My son stared at me. "What do you mean?" I swallowed. And I said the words. Slowly. Like they were glass. "Your father had another child." The room stopped breathing. My son froze. His eyes widened. He blinked once, then twice, and he whispered, "No." I nodded. My tears fell. Yes. My son stood up so fast. His chair scraped the floor. "No." He shook his head violently. "No, Mum. That's not possible." Margaret stood too. She whispered, "It is." My son turned to her. "Why are you here?" Margaret swallowed. She said softly, "Because she needs support." My son's breathing became fast. He looked at me, his voice shaking. "You're lying." And I whispered, "I wish I was." He paced. He ran his hands through his hair. He laughed once. A sharp laugh, like disbelief. Then he turned back. His eyes were wet now. He whispered, "Dad would never do that." I whispered, "I didn't think so either." I reached for the letters, my hands trembling. I placed them on the table. My son stared at them, like they were poison. I whispered, "He wrote these." My son shook his head. "No." I nodded. "Yes." He stared at the handwriting, and I watched as his face changed, because he recognized it. He recognized his father's writing, his father's words, his father's shape on paper, his voice, his truth. My son's lips trembled. He whispered, "How old?" I swallowed. She's older than you." The room went silent again. My son's knees looked like they might give out. He sat back down slowly. And then he whispered something that made my heart shatter. He whispered, "So I was his second chance." My tears fell harder. Because yes, that's exactly what he was. My son looked at me. His voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered, "I didn't know." He shook his head. 20 years. 20 years you talked about him like he was perfect." My throat tightened. And I whispered, "Because I loved him." My son stared. And then his voice broke. "I loved him too." And he started crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet tears. The kind men try to hide. The kind that fall when they can't hold it anymore. He wiped his face quickly and whispered, "Where is she?" I froze. Margaret's eyes widened, and my son looked at me again, his voice shaking, and he whispered, "Where is my sister, Mum?" When my son whispered, "Where is my sister, Mum?" I felt my whole body tremble, because I didn't expect that. I expected anger. I expected shouting. I expected him to stand up and walk out. I expected him to say, "Don't ever speak to me again." But instead, he asked for her, like his heart had already accepted something his mind was still fighting. Margaret's eyes filled instantly, and I started crying again, because in that moment, I realized I raised a kinder man than the one I married. I swallowed hard. She's She's nearby. My son nodded slowly. His jaw clenched. He whispered, "Bring her." My heart pounded. "Now?" He nodded. "Yes." His voice broke. "Now." I picked up the phone with shaking hands. I called the girl. It rang once, twice. Then she answered. Her voice was soft. "Hello." I swallowed. "He's here." There was silence. Then she whispered, "Already?" My throat tightened. "Yes." She inhaled sharply. I could hear her breathing. Fast. Nervous. Like she was about to step off a cliff. I whispered, "He wants to meet you." She didn't speak for a moment. Then she whispered, "Does he hate me?" My eyes filled. I looked at my son. He was staring at the table. His hands clenched. His cheeks wet. I whispered, "No, not hate. His crying." The girl let out a small broken sound, and she whispered, "Okay, I'll come." When I hung up, my son stood by the window. He kept wiping his face, but the tears kept returning. He whispered, "I don't know what to do." My heart broke, because he was a grown man. But suddenly, he looked like a little boy again. The boy who once asked me, "Mum, why did Dad leave us?" And I would say, "He didn't leave us, darling. He died." But now I realized, a part of him did leave, even before death. He left by hiding the truth. My son turned to me, his voice shaking. "Did Dad know about her when I was born?" My throat tightened. I nodded slowly. "Yes." My son flinched. Like that answer physically hurt him. He whispered. So when he held me, he was holding her secret too. I started crying again. "Yes." He stared at the wall, and he whispered, "That's sick." His voice cracked. "That's sick." Margaret spoke gently. He was a complicated man. My son snapped. No, don't do that." His voice rose, not screaming, but shaking. "Don't soften it. He was my father, and he did this." He wiped his face and whispered, "How could he?" I whispered, "I don't know." And for the first time in my life, I said something I had never dared to say out loud. I whispered, "Sometimes, I think your father was weak." My son stared at me, his eyes wide, because he had never heard me speak like that. I had always defended him, always, even after death, even after loneliness, even after the silence. But now, the truth had pulled the defense out of my hands. My son whispered, "Yeah." His voice broke. "Yeah, he was." We waited. Minutes felt like hours. My son kept pacing, then sitting, then standing, then pacing again. His hands were trembling. He whispered, "What if she looks like him?" That question made my throat close. Because yes, she might. And seeing his father's face in his sister might break him, or heal him, or both. Then the doorbell rang. My whole body froze. Margaret stood up first. She walked to the door. She opened it. And there she was, the girl, standing in my doorway, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked smaller in my home, like the walls were too big for her, like she didn't belong here, like she was stepping into someone else's life. My son stepped forward, slowly, like he was afraid she would vanish. He stared at her, and she stared at him, and for a moment, time stopped. Because they looked alike, not completely, but enough to make my stomach twist. The shape of the eyes, the line of the nose, the same sadness around the mouth, and suddenly, I felt like my husband was standing in the room again, in two bodies, in two children. The girl whispered, "Hi." Her voice broke on the word. My son swallowed. His lips trembled, and he whispered, "Hi." Then, his eyes filled again, and he whispered, "I'm sorry." That sentence, that simple sentence, made the girl's face crumble. She covered her mouth, and she started crying. Hard. She whispered, "You don't have to be sorry." My son shook his head. "Yes, yes, I do." His voice broke. "Because you were alone." And then, my son started crying too. Right there, in the doorway, like a child, like a brother, like a human being. The girl stepped forward slowly, and she whispered, "Do you hate me?" My son shook his head instantly. "No, no." His voice cracked. "I don't even know you, but I don't hate you." The girl nodded, tears falling, and she whispered, "Okay." Margaret guided them gently. "Come sit." We all sat in the living room. Me, my son, his sister, Margaret. The air felt thick, like the room was holding its breath. The girl sat on the edge of the sofa, like she didn't deserve to sit fully. My son sat across from her, his hands clenched. He kept staring at her, like he was trying to memorize her face, like he was afraid she would disappear again. My son whispered, "What's your name?" The girl hesitated. Then she said it softly. My son repeated it quietly, like tasting it, like trying to make it real. Then he whispered, "That's a beautiful name." The girl's lips trembled, and she whispered, "Thank you." And then she added, "My father wrote it once." My son blinked. "He wrote your name?" The girl nodded. "Yes." And her eyes filled again. She whispered, "He knew my name." My son closed his eyes, and he cried again, because that sentence was both beautiful and cruel. My son looked at me, his voice shaking. Is it true? I nodded. Yes. He whispered. All of it? I nodded again. Yes. My son leaned forward. He looked at his sister, and he whispered, Did you ever see him? The girl swallowed, her voice small. No, not once. My son's face twisted. He whispered, Not once. He shook his head and whispered, That's unforgivable. The girl looked down. She whispered, I used to imagine him. My son blinked. You imagined him? The girl nodded. Yes. Her voice cracked. When I was little, I would sit by the window and pretend he was coming. My son's eyes filled again. He whispered, Oh God. And then he covered his face, and he cried. Then the girl looked up at him, and she whispered, I imagined you too. My son froze. What? The girl's voice trembled. I imagined I had a brother. She laughed softly, a sad laugh. I didn't know you were real. My son stared at her. His lips trembled. And then he stood up. He walked toward her slowly. She tensed, like she didn't know what he was about to do. Then he opened his arms, not forcefully, not fast, just gently, like asking permission. And he whispered, Can I? The girl's eyes filled. She nodded. And then they hugged. They hugged like two people who had been missing each other their whole lives. And I started sobbing, because I had never seen something so heartbreaking and so beautiful. At the same time, my son whispered into her hair, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The girl cried into his shoulder, and she whispered, I didn't think I would ever belong anywhere. My son held her tighter and whispered, You belong now. I covered my mouth. My chest hurt, because I realized something. My husband was dead, but his consequences were alive. And yet, his children were healing something he broke, and that made me love them more than I thought my heart could hold. After a while, they pulled apart. The girl wiped her face. My son wiped his. And then, my son whispered, Do you want to see his grave? The girl froze. Her eyes widened. My father's grave? My son nodded slowly. Yes. The girl swallowed hard, her voice shaking. Yes, yes, I do. My son stood up. He reached for his keys, and he whispered, Let's go. And as we walked toward the door, I realized we weren't just going to a grave, we were going to a truth that might break her, or finally set her free. The car ride to the cemetery felt unreal. My son drove slowly, too slowly, like the road itself was fragile, like if we moved too fast, the truth would shatter into pieces. The girl sat in the back seat, quiet. Her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her shoulders were stiff, like she was holding herself together with invisible strings. Margaret sat beside her, holding her hand, not saying much, just being there. And I sat in the front, my heart pounding, my throat burning, because I could feel it. This wasn't just a visit to a grave. This was the moment. His two lives collided. My son cleared his throat. His voice was rough. "What did your mother tell you about him?" The girl hesitated. Then she whispered. She said, "He was a good man." My son's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. He didn't laugh. He didn't argue. He just whispered. Did she hate him? The girl shook her head slowly. No. She didn't hate him. She loved him. Her voice cracked. She loved him so much. Sometimes I thought she loved him more than she loved me. That sentence hit me like a slap, because I knew that feeling, not as a child, but as a wife. The feeling of being second to a ghost. My son whispered, "She loved him too?" The girl nodded. Yes. And then she whispered something that made my blood turn cold. She used to say, "If he had been braver, we would have been a family." My son swallowed hard. His voice broke. So he wasn't braver. And now we're the ones paying for it. The girl didn't answer. She just cried quietly, silently, tears rolling down her cheeks, like she was used to crying alone. Margaret whispered, "You don't have to blame yourself, sweetheart." The girl shook her head, her voice trembling. "I'm not blaming myself. I'm blaming him." And that was the first time I heard it. The anger. Not from my son, not from me, but from her. A daughter who had waited her whole life for a father who never came. My son's voice was tight. Did he ever send money? The girl nodded slowly. Yes. Sometimes, but not always. My son exhaled sharply. Of course. The girl whispered. My mother used to hide the envelopes. She looked down, her voice small, like they were shame. My son's eyes filled again, and he whispered, "I'm sorry." The girl whispered, "Stop saying that. You didn't do it." But my son shook his head. "Yes, but I lived in the house he chose. And you lived outside it." My throat tightened. I stared out the window, and I thought, I lived in the house he chose too. But I was never chosen fully. Not when he carried another woman's tears. Not when he carried another child's existence. Not when he carried that secret, like a stone in his pocket. When we arrived, the cemetery looked different than it always did. The sky was grey. The wind was cold. The trees stood like silent witnesses. And for the first time, I didn't feel comfort walking into that place. I felt exposed. like the earth itself was about to accuse me. My son parked. No one moved for a moment. Then, the girl whispered, "Is he really here?" My son nodded. "Yes." She swallowed. Her hands trembled. And she whispered, I thought I would feel angry, but I feel." Her voice cracked. "I feel like a little girl." And that sentence made me start crying again, because I remembered being 16, being a little girl, standing in front of a man who promised, "As long as I breathe, you will never be alone." And now, here we were, all of us, alone. We walked slowly. My son led the way. He knew the path. I had walked it 100 times. But today, the stones felt heavier under my feet. The wind felt sharper. The silence felt crueler. Then we reached it. His grave. His name carved into stone. The same name I had whispered in my sleep for 20 years. The girl froze. Her breath caught. She stared at it, like she didn't believe she was allowed to see it. Her lips trembled. And then, she stepped forward, slowly, and she knelt, right there, in front of the grave. She touched the stone, with trembling fingers, like touching it might burn her. Then she whispered, "Hi." Just that. "Hi." And suddenly, she started sobbing. Not quiet crying, not soft tears. She sobbed like a child who had been holding her breath her whole life. Margaret crouched beside her, holding her. My son stood behind her, frozen, his face wet, and I couldn't move, because watching her cry was like watching the daughter I never had grieve a father she never got. The girl cried and cried, and then she whispered, "Why didn't you come?" Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you want me?" My son flinched, like those words stabbed him too, because my son had never had to ask that question, but she did. She had lived with it. Every birthday, every school event, every illness, every night she listened to other kids say, "My dad will pick me up." She pressed her forehead against the stone, and she whispered, "I waited. I waited." Her shoulders shook. "I waited so long." My son finally stepped forward. He knelt beside her, his voice shaking. "He didn't not want you." The girl turned her face toward him, tears running. "What?" My son swallowed, his eyes red. He struggled. He was just weak. The girl stared, and then she whispered, "So he wanted me, but he didn't choose me." My son closed his eyes and whispered, "Yes." The girl laughed once, a broken laugh, and she whispered, "That hurts more." Then, the girl did something I didn't expect. She turned to me, her eyes red, her voice shaking. "Did you know?" My whole body froze. My heart dropped. My son looked at me too. Margaret looked at me too. And suddenly, I was standing in front of my own trial. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Because the truth was, I did know. Not at the beginning, but later. I knew, and I stayed, and I loved him, and I protected him, and I let her exist, only in shadows. My throat burned, and finally, I whispered, yes. The girl's face crumpled, like she had been punched. She whispered, you knew. My son's eyes widened. He whispered, Mum. I started crying instantly. I couldn't stop it. I whispered, I knew later. I found out. I found out when you were still young. My son whispered, How could you? His voice broke. How could you keep that from me? My chest hurt. I held my hands together like prayer. I whispered, because I was afraid. My son's eyes filled. Afraid of what? And that question tore me open, because I didn't have a clean answer. I whispered, I was afraid that if you knew, you would hate him. My son's voice cracked, but he deserved it. I started sobbing. Yes, he did. The girl stared at me, her voice shaking. So you chose him. You chose him over me. That sentence shattered something inside me, because it was true. In some way, it was true. I chose the life I knew. I chose the home. I chose the marriage. I chose my son. And I left her. In the dark. I fell to my knees. Right there. In the cemetery. And I whispered, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My voice broke. I'm so sorry. The girl stared, tears falling, and she whispered, my whole life. I wondered if I was a mistake, and I whispered, no, you were never a mistake. My son whispered, she wasn't. The girl looked at him. My son's face was wet. He whispered, you're not a mistake. And then he turned to the grave, and he whispered, you are. That moment made the air go still, because my son was speaking to his father, the way I used to, but with anger, with truth, with pain. My son whispered, I loved you so much. His voice cracked, and you still managed to ruin us. The girl cried, Margaret cried, and I cried like my lungs were breaking. Then, the girl reached into her bag. She pulled out something small, a folded paper. My son blinked. What is that? The girl's hands trembled. She whispered, it's a letter. My son stared. A letter? The girl nodded, her voice shaking. My mother gave it to me. She said if I ever met you, I should give it to you. My son froze. His breathing stopped. He whispered, "A letter, for me?" The girl nodded slowly. "Yes." My son reached for the letter with shaking hands, and I realized whatever was written inside was going to change everything, because I could already see it. My son's face, before he even opened it. My son held the letter like it was fragile, like it might crumble into dust if he breathed too hard. The wind moved through the trees. The cemetery felt colder. Even the sky looked like it was waiting. The girl sat on the grass beside the grave, her eyes swollen, her cheeks wet. Margaret stood behind her, one hand resting gently on her shoulder. And I stood there shaking, because I already knew. Whatever was inside that paper was not just words. It was 20 years of silence. My son's fingers trembled as he unfolded it. He stared at the handwriting. Then his eyes filled instantly, because it was my husband's handwriting. The same handwriting I used to see on grocery lists. The same handwriting that once wrote tea, sugar, bread. Now writing something far heavier. My son swallowed, and he began to read. "My son, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. And if she gave you this letter, it means you have met your sister. And if you have met her, then the truth has finally found you. I am sorry." My son stopped. His lips trembled. He whispered. He wrote this, like he couldn't believe it, like the dead had reached out from the ground. Then he kept reading. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know something. Your sister was never a mistake. She was never shame. She was a life, a real life. And I failed her. And I failed you. And I failed your mother." My son's breath broke. He wiped his face quickly, but the tears kept coming. I was not brave. I was not honest. I was not the man I pretended to be. I lived two lives, and in the end, I ruined both. Your mother deserved loyalty. Your sister deserved a father. And you deserved a childhood without secrets. My son lowered the letter, and he cried. Not quiet tears, not a few drops. He cried like a boy, like the little boy inside him finally had permission. The girl stared at him. Her own tears fell again, and I felt my knees go weak, because I had waited 20 years for my husband to say something like that. And now, he was saying it to our son, not to me. My son lifted the letter again. His voice cracked as he read. "I loved you, son. I loved you more than my own life. And I know that makes no sense. Because if I truly loved you, I would have protected you from this. But I was selfish. I wanted to keep you. I wanted to keep your mother. I wanted to keep my home. And I also wanted to keep her. I wanted everything. And in wanting everything, I became nothing." The girl covered her mouth. She started sobbing again. She whispered, "He loved me." Her voice was small, like a child asking for permission to exist. My son looked at her, his eyes red, and he whispered, "Yes." The girl cried harder, and she whispered, "Then why?" My son whispered, "Because love doesn't fix weakness." That sentence struck me like lightning, because it was true, and it was the most painful truth of all. Love doesn't fix a man who is afraid. Love doesn't fix someone who chooses silence. Love doesn't fix a heart that is cowardly. My son continued reading. "I am writing this letter because I don't want my death to be the end of the damage I caused. I want you to do something I could never do. I want you to be better than me. I want you to look at your sister and see your own blood. And I want you to give her what I never gave her. A place, a name, a family." My son's hands shook. He whispered, "He's asking me." Margaret whispered softly, "He's begging you." My son swallowed, and he read the last part. My son swallowed, and he read the last part. "And to your mother, if she ever tells you the truth, please do not punish her. She stayed because she loved me, and she stayed because she loved you. She carried my shame so you wouldn't have to. She suffered in silence. She paid for my sins with her own loneliness. She did not deserve that. She deserved peace." My son stopped reading. His face crumpled. He looked at me, and for a moment, I thought he would hate me. I thought he would turn away. I thought this was the moment I would lose him. But my son stood up. He walked to me slowly, and he hugged me. He hugged me tightly, like he was holding me together. And he whispered, "I'm sorry. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe." I whispered, "No, no, I'm the one who should be sorry." My son shook his head. "No." His voice broke. "You were trapped." I cried into his shoulder. I whispered, "I loved him. I loved him so much." My son whispered, "I know." Then, my son walked toward the girl. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking, her eyes full of fear, like she was waiting for rejection, like she had been waiting her whole life. My son looked at her, and his voice trembled. "I don't know how to do this." The girl swallowed. "I don't either." My son nodded. "But we'll learn." The girl's face crumpled, and she started sobbing. "Really?" My son nodded. "Yes." Then he held out his hand. Not fast, not forceful, just an invitation. The girl stared at his hand. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his, and my son squeezed it. I watched them, brother and sister, connected by blood, connected by pain, connected by a man who couldn't do the right thing, but who left behind children who could. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt since my husband died. Not love, not grief, but something quieter, something gentler. Hope. We stood there for a while. No one spoke. The wind moved through the trees. The grave stayed silent. But the silence didn't feel violent anymore. It felt finished, like a chapter closing. When we finally turned to leave, the girl looked back at the grave. She whispered, "Goodbye." My son whispered, "Goodbye." And I looked down at his name, and I whispered, "I hope you heard us." That night, when I came home, I did what I always did. I turned on the lamp. I sat on the edge of the bed, and I looked at his photograph. But something was different. The house felt less heavy. The silence felt less cruel. I whispered, "Well, you finally did it." My voice trembled. "You finally told the truth." I laughed softly, through tears. "I carried it for 20 years. And you waited until you were dead to say you were sorry." I wiped my cheeks. I whispered, "Typical." Then I sat there quietly, listening. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Because now, my son knew, and his sister knew. And the truth was no longer living only in my chest. I whispered, "I'm still angry at you. I'm still hurt. But tonight." I looked at his photograph, and I whispered, "Tonight I can breathe." I closed my eyes, and I whispered, "Good night." And I waited, just like always. And then, in the quiet, in that thin space between memory and sleep, I swear, I felt it. Not a voice, not a ghost, not a miracle, just a warmth, like a hand on my shoulder, like someone finally saying, "I'm here." And I started crying again. But not the kind of crying that breaks you. The kind of crying that releases you. The kind of crying that feels like, after years of holding your breath, you finally exhale. And I whispered, "Thank you." And that was the night I understood something. I wasn't talking to the dead. I was talking to my own heart. I was talking to the love I gave, and the love I never stopped carrying. Sometimes, people don't leave us properly. Sometimes, they leave us with questions, with silence, with unfinished sentences. But love is stubborn. Love stays. Love waits. Love remembers. And if you ever hear an old woman speaking softly in the dark, don't call her crazy. Don't call her strange. Because maybe she's not talking to the dead. Maybe she's just trying to stay alive. And if you're listening to me right now, and you're missing someone too, I want you to know something. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are simply someone who loved deeply. And love doesn't disappear. It only changes its shape. Good night, my dear, and good night to the one I loved. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment, because your words might comfort someone else who is listening in silence. And if you know someone who feels lonely, please share this story with them.